This area where I'm exploring in the woods today was the site of an old homestead and ranch there in the early to mid 1900s, and may have been used for various purposes over the years. Long before that, there was an old town here. It's a ghost town today, so many layers of history to this area. Let's take a journey into the past. So beautiful, peaceful out here, this open space in the woods. Now just imagine at one time a ranch and a homestead at this area where I'm standing today. Looks a lot different than it did in early to mid 1900s. Nature's reclaimed it. You can sense the past still exploring this area. It's incredible. Now, I'm being cautious as I explore around these areas in the woods. A lot of tall grasses, dense brush as I go through some of these areas. And perfect habitat for snakes, and it's rattlesnake mating season, in fact, so I've been seeing a lot more of them out here. And I'm just being really careful as I walk around, look closely in areas I'm exploring. Tread lightly. Top of this hill here in the woods, and I can see some wooden posts around the perimeter of this area, and as part of the fence here at the homestead long ago. Some of the traces from the past I'm seeing. Let's investigate the area. Now I can see in this clearing here traces from the homestead that once stood, foundations, and right over here is remnants from a windmill still standing. That's right, it's incredible. Following this old path here into the woods, and maybe one of the old roads here used at one time during the days of the town that once existed in this area in the 1800s. You see there was a town, this part of Florida, called Oriole during that time. Once they built the railroad line nearby, this town began to thrive through industry, turpentine, logging, phosphate, and limestone mining, just to name a few of the industries here. And once all those resources were used up, the town was abandoned. much like many others in the area here along the railroad line. Beautiful cypress swamps out here lead towards the river. Now, long before the days of the town, people were settling in this area, started farming, they traded with each other, even with some of the Native American Indians that lived nearby during that time, which would have been the Seminole Indians. And at that time, the only way to cross the river was by ferry. It wasn't until they built the railroad line and started constructing roads through these areas when this town began to take off. Old cemetery out here in the woods where I'm exploring just some of the history in the area. And it did exist during the days of the town here, but before that, people were settling in this area and they utilized the cemetery as their burial ground. Some of the early settlers of this area are buried here. Unfortunately, throughout this cemetery, I'm seeing some infant graves, and in those days, it was a hard way of living. Many children didn't live very long, and there was yellow fever, influenza, and other diseases. It's a hard way of life. This person here was born in 1902, passed away in 1903, only lived to be a year. And the same thing over here, they passed away in 1905 and was born in 1904. Here in the woods at this old cemetery. See some of the graves here. Early settlers of the area.